Alrighty. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Todd Farnham, and welcome to Odoo Live. I'm a community manager here at Odoo San Francisco, and I will be your host. Today, I'm joined by Sebastian Sagramoso, business advisor and resident Odoo expert, here today to discuss Odoo projects.
How you doing, everybody? Today's presentation will take about 40 minutes. Afterwards, we'll have about 20 minutes for Q&A. Throughout the presentation, Todd will be handling questions. So send those to the chat box, and afterwards, if we have some time, we'll take a look at those. If not, we'll just go over some other details about the presentation.
Perfect. Thanks, Sebastian. And if you would like to review this webinar at any point again in the future, you can just use this URL again and bookmark it. And if you'd like this video and would like to find out more information on future releases, information, and free webinars that we release every week, go ahead and subscribe to our channel down below. And as we mentioned, just enter any questions that you might have during the presentation, and we will answer them throughout or at the end during the Q&A. So as always, just stay tuned. You can follow us on Twitter, us here on YouTube, or on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. So, as always, we couldn't do this without the support of our community, so thanks, everyone. And with that, I guess we can get started.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you for the introduction. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. As you probably know, we do these webinars quite often. We have a couple a week, so I do encourage you afterwards, if you're just looking at this one for the first time, to view our website, our YouTube page. We've got a lot of videos. Some of them are presented by me. Some are presented by my colleagues. If afterwards this webinar does not answer all your questions, please feel free to visit our website, email me at ses@odoo.com. I can set up a demo just for you. We can take a look at your company in particular. Today we'll be looking at the project management in Odoo. It's one of our most powerful apps, but like everything in Odoo, it works together with other parts of the system. Of course, this is going to be most relevant for service companies when it comes to invoicing hours from a task, from a project. But also keep in mind that project management is a tool that you'll be able to use in any company, whether that's for rolling out a product, internal needs like marketing. It's really going to be a powerful tool that integrates well with sales and with a lot of HR apps. So let's take a look at that. I want to kind of run you guys through what we're going to be looking at today, kind of how we're going to structure our demonstration. Let's see if we can scroll down here to roll through the 5 different stages. Number 1, we'll kind of doing this right now, but introduction to Odoo and project management. We'll also take a look at the very beginning of the screen share for this. After that, where I want to spend a lot of my time is configuring a project from scratch. This does a few things. We'll take a look at Odoo in general, the logic of the system, and how it can be set up. We will also take a look at how quickly it is to configure. It's very flexible. We can do it on the fly. It's easy to learn for you or any of your employees. And we'll take a look at, that'll help us take a look at the specific configurations, how they tie into other apps, and so on. Number 3 will be using this in a business flow. If you are a service company, if you invoice on hours ever, this will show you how the system is integrated together. We'll start in sales. We'll create a sale order, then we'll move into the actual task created from that, and finally invoice based on the hours we spend there. Both of these will involve forecasting, they'll involve planning, and everything that goes into running a project in your company. Finally, step 4, we'll take a look at analysis, reporting that Odoo features here, and customer interaction. How are your customers kept up to speed on the status of their project, of their tasks, and how can they give you any feedback? Finally, like Todd elaborated on, we'll take a look at Q&A, and I'll take a look at some questions from you guys if we have time. So I'm going to take you over to my main dashboard here. Quick introduction, if you haven't seen Odoo before, this is going to be my main dashboard. It's part of a database that I've set up. It's just a database like you'd be using. I started a free trial, and if I liked, I could connect this to my subscription and get it going for my company. Started this a couple hours ago, downloaded the apps I would need for this. If at any point I needed more apps, Odoo does have an app store right here. It's all in the cloud though, so this only involves internet. It runs on your computer, on your tablet, on your phone. And using the App Store, I can download whatever I need at any point. I can also add users on the fly. If you want more information about getting started with Odoo, we do have specific webinars on that, so I invite you to check that out. Now, let's take a look right at the project app. Let's jump into it. First thing to take a look at here is going to be the dashboard. The main dashboard is something that every app in Odoo has. It's basically the first screen you'll run into always and features some important information off the bat. So right here we've got my project dashboard. It features the different projects I currently have open and certain information about those. Tasks involved in each project, what the email alias is. We'll go into details about what that is in a moment. Any documents associated with it. And this is also an easy place for me to view a forecast, make changes to set this project apart, maybe change its color. The star makes it a priority or not. It'll stick to the top of the page if so, if I've got a few different rows of projects going on here. So let's now move into the next stage. Let's actually configure a project and set that up from the start. As you can see here, I have a few that I've already made, and we'll touch on those. Those will be set up for our sales process. What does it look like from the very beginning here? We'll create a project. Let's call this Guitar Fixes. As you can see, my database is for a small instrument shop. We fix guitars, we sell them as well. In this case, my service product will be a guitar fix. So we'll name our project this. I'll give it an email alias, project email. We'll call it guitar@musiccity.odoo.com. What that means is that I can email from outside of Odoo and actually send projects or tasks directly into Guitar Fix. In other words, I can invite my clients, if they have issues or have questions, they can actually send me an email, and the title of that email will be the new task within this project if they send it to this address. We're going to use forecasts, we're going to use task, and we will use timesheets, and we'll get it started. There it is. Now, important is settings. Anywhere in Odoo, the settings, the configuration of an app or of a project is going to determine how this is handled in the system, how it interacts with other parts of Odoo and other apps. First off, we've got our name and our tasks, which will be the specific operations within the project, appear here, and I can choose what I want to call those, whatever makes the most sense for your company, whatever you have currently in place. Let's say we call these operations. I'll allow timesheets because I do want to track hours that my employees spend on this, whether that's for internal use or for invoicing. And I do want to be able to forecast, see how long this might take, and look at the Gantt view of my tasks, or in this case my operations, within this project. Finally, here I can assign a project manager. I can also assign a team to a project, and I can control privacy or determine if this project is specific to a certain customer. In this case, we'll have one large project that will actually apply to multiple customers because I can apply each of the tasks to a customer if I need to. Privacy settings, to go over quickly, basically entail who is going to be able to work on this project, can it be seen by my customers on the front end, on the website, and this works hand in hand with access rights. In other words, determining what user in the system can make changes to a project or can even view it. Let's save that for now. As you see here, there's other information that is featured right here from the project page. And this is going to be similar to anywhere in Odoo. This is called our form view of the, in this case, project. We have form views for customers, for products. And whenever we have that set up, we can see at the top what other parts of the system are pulling information from the, from this page, from this project. In this case, the forecast associated with it, what timesheets have come in, what documents are attached. So we have our project set up. Let's move over here, view it from here. As you can see from the front page, I don't have any operations in this project yet. Let's create a forecast. The forecast is something that we can set on the project and on the task. You don't need to set it on the project. It can be helpful if this is something that you're going to be tracking on a monthly basis. We'll start it right now, and we'll continue this for a couple weeks. Let's view that forecast. Initially, we'll look at it here where we could actually track time. Let's see, I can't jump into the view there. And so if I were to look at my forecast here by project, it's going to pop up, and right now it's going to be just one forecast guitar tuning with the multiple stages. Since I haven't added the forecast of each task in the other project, it won't appear yet. And we'll go into what this looks like and what this means later on. Now, the next thing to do with a project is to assign different tasks, or excuse me, different stages within the project. So when I jump in here, off the bat I have nothing here, and Odoo's standard is going to be the Kanban view, and I can create these stages to then move these tasks or these operations from one to the other, and in so doing tracking the progress of work and also other configurations that can be set up. For example, I can have emails go out automatically to my clients every time a project changes, or an operation changes stage. Let's see, the first one we'll probably say is analysis. We can make our next stage and call it production. The next we'll call review. And the last one will be done. Each one of these does have its own configuration, like I said. They can be folded to make for more space and to focus on the initial stages. And then right here I can just go ahead and create a task. The first thing we'll call it is whether you can assign it by number. We can have automatic number assignations. We might call it in this case Todd's guitar fix comes in. Or perhaps we're doing an internal project, we'll say internal instrument fix. Let me just get that right. And my first task is made. Off the bat, you see from this view that it appears we have certain information that's offered to us immediately. First of all, we get the name, and that's about it. We have maybe a little star here. Now if I open up this task, that's what's going to show me a lot more information. So let's jump into here. Let's view information about this particular task. First of all, I can create a forecast. I can set initially planned hours that I think this is going to take. I can also set a deadline date. Perhaps for reasons within the company, I have to make sure this is finished by Friday. Now by setting the deadline, this appears on my calendar. I can then view it easily. I can also view as a manager all the deadlines due for all of my employees and all the projects they're involved in. I can also give it a tag. Tags will allow me to search easily for a project, give me certain information about it, and let me see it easily from the Kanban view. So let's say this is a 6-string and it's also a fragile instrument. We'll say maybe this, I'm estimating, will take about 8 hours to complete. Let's save that here. Now let's create a forecast. I'll start this on, well, we can start it today, and we'll end it also on Friday. We've got 8 hours that will be involved, and my percent time calculation is based off of my working hours. So we'll take a look at my working hours either on the employee page or on the project page. But what that means is each project or employee can have time assigned to them that they will be actually contributing to this stage. The standard will be 8 hours a day. They won't work weekends, but of course we can extend that, and depending on your type of project or what type of work you're doing, we can have different hours, which of course helps us to plan and view everything from a Gantt view.
Oh, hey, Sebastian, we got a quick request from Seco934.
Sure.
He said he just would like to see if you could utilize sequences or in projects and dependencies between tasks, if we'll be illustrating that.
Yeah, we'll be taking a look at that. That's pretty simple. We'll take a look once I get out of the forecasting. We'll take a look at that from the project management page. But sequencing basically determines when I create a project or when I create a task, how that is going to be, how is that going to relate to other tasks. So does it have to be completed first before another? Does it have to be approved by a manager first? And yeah, so we'll take a look at that in a moment. But first I want to finish here taking a look at the forecast. I've set the forecast now. Now if I come back here and view my forecast, I can take a look in the Gantt view. On a weekly basis, we can take a look at how much time I've predicted this to take. It's only going to take 5% of my working hours for these 3 days, so I should have no problem getting it done. This is a powerful tool for a manager, of course. We can take a look and see that my staff are not going to be overworked here. We should be able to get this completed on time. Of course, if this is planning to take more time than we've initially thought, or perhaps we only have 8 hours in the day, this work is supposed to take 10 hours, then this would appear red. It's going to be a red flag, of course, for management or for anyone in charge of the task to then be able to see and say, well, should I assign another team to this? Should I assign another members of the company to help me out and complete this in time? This is, again, the forecasting tool from the eyes of the particular task. Now, if we do look, again, at project, we now see that both projects appear, guitar fix, guitar tuning. And right here, it appears one task is involved, so the entire project timeline is based on this one task and how much time I've predicted for it. Finally, taking a look at guitar tuning, let's analyze the information we see here. So I've got a couple percentages up here, and I've got a couple different stages right here. These, of course, determine each task involved in the project and how much percent of my working hours this is going to take up. In this case, 25%, 50, 25. None are too large except over here where I can see I'm at 125. So this will be a red flag. I can now assign more people to work here. But if I need to, I can see from the top here that for this day I'm at 100% working capacity. Over here I'm only at 75% and 50%, excuse me. And now I can play around with this, put this together. Now I'm going to be more efficient by putting these three together. I'm now at 100% working capacity for these three, and I can get those done sooner. Let's move it over here as well. And because I didn't have that assigned, I didn't have the right access rights, I wasn't able to move it. This is going to be a tool for managers primarily. So this is our project, and that's how we set it up from scratch. Now, to the question about sequencing, that's just a quick setting here. Under the project, I should be able to set my sequencing, or was it? It might be under my tasks. So let me explore that later. Perhaps we'll have a second towards the end of the project to find out exactly where we add the sequencing. So again, we looked at setting up a project. We looked at setting up the task within it, the stages, how those stages each have their own configuration, and they can be moved along and send email automatic updates. Again, reviewing here, these are my different stages. As my work moves along, we can bring them in. Perhaps every time I bring this in, I'm actually sending an automatic email out to my client. If we look at this stage here, I can set an email template, create and edit an email template, which sends, of course, from your email address. We can fill in any information here, perhaps updating the client on what stage it's in, perhaps letting them know that they've got about 3 days from this point before they should come in to receive their finished product. You also see here stages. This is something that would be used by a manager. From this page, as a manager, I could come in here and say, this project is now ready for the next stage, essentially giving my approval. It can be moved into the next stage, and as soon as it does that, it goes back to gray. It's in progress. I can also block it. Same thing, and have my team review this and also reach me if they need to, request my approval again. Something else to note within the task page is down here, the chatter area. This is something that appears everywhere in Odoo. It's going to be a powerful feature mostly for internal communication and accountability. As you can see, Odoo automatically documents information about this task. For instance, when it was open, when it was created, any changes I made to it, changes in stage, even changes in Kanban state, gray, green, was it ready to move on. Importantly here, I can also tag someone. I can tag a manager. I can tell them to check in. I can even email a client right from this page if I need to. And I can add followers to this page. Followers will always be updated every time something changes for this task, every time it changes stages, every time an edit is made or a timesheet is logged. That appears right here, and they receive a notification either in Odoo or in their email. Finally, scheduling activities is going to be an important feature, not only in the CRM like it used to be, but now in Odoo. On most of our forms, we can set activities. We can call or maybe have a to-do list. We'll set this deadline for tomorrow to make sure we've done it. And it appears down here, and we can actually search and filter our different tasks based on their to-do list, their scheduled activities, and what comes next. And once it's done, we can mark it there. So now I'd like to take a look at actually using this on an everyday basis for a service company. How are we going to invoice a product based on the working hours and triggered from a sale order? We're going to leave the project app for a while, and let's take a look at sales. Of course, I need to sell a product, and although it's not a physical product, it's going to be a service, it is still considered a product in Odoo just for configuration purposes. Here it is. I've got guitar tuning. If I open up this product, I've got the form view like we saw for project. Information on sales that have been made about this product up here. Any other tie-ins up here if this app is being used by inventory, if it's being used by subscriptions. That all appears right here conveniently in a link. Down here is the information that has to do with sales, in this case general information. We can click over here. If I offer this product on the website, I can have those details put here. And importantly for this product, over here under invoicing, I've clicked here to track this service. If I click edit here, we can look at our options. For this service, I'm going to create a task and track hours as soon as it's ready to invoice. In other words, as soon as I confirm my sale and I'm ready to invoice, we'll create that task automatically, track those hours, and then invoice off of those hours. And when I choose that option, my project appears here, and I can choose between my projects. I already have this one made. It's going to be my guitar tuning project, and I've already been funneling tasks into this project. So we'll now save that, and let's now view from the sale order page. I've already got a sale order right here to a certain customer. I can create a new one. I can also go straight to the customer page and create a quotation from there. We'll say that Tom Riddle called in or walked into the office and he's looking for guitar tuning based off of what he needs. I've determined that it's going to be about an 8-hour fix. I told him, though, of course, I won't charge him those 8 hours until I know exactly how long I spend, whether that's less or more. So we can produce this here. Perhaps he wants to pay by credit card once it's finished. I can send it to him by email. More on this on other webinars that we have for sales and e-commerce. But I'll send that over to him, and just like the changes I make to any document, that appears down here in the chatter box. So he writes back, says we're all good to go, and I can confirm this sale. Now that it's confirmed, you'll note that immediately a task appears over in this page. This task is just like the tasks that appear in the guitar tuning project. I can access it right from my sale order for reference. I can also view it right from the project app if I go into projects and then click into my guitar tuning project right here. I can view it here. As you can see, since this task was created from a sale order, I can always jump to that right there. My initially planned hours on this task will be 8 since I've set that on the sale order. And my timesheets are right here. Also note a few things. I've got subtasks designed for this project, and I've also got my stages up here. What that means, So after assessment, perhaps I take some notes under description, I tag a manager, we take a look at this together. We now move into preparation. For preparation, this doesn't take long. I'll log maybe 1 hour. And as you can see, as I move along, my working time increases based on the initially planned hours. This is going to be an important tool that I can actually view for all my tasks in the list view. We'll take a look at that. From the list view, I can see the progress moving along for any of the operations or tasks I currently have in place, either assigned to me, to a specific project, or to the entire company. Now let's explore subtasks. If I click into subtasks, it's important to know how you might use this. Of course, simply following one action by a single task can be a little limiting. That's why we allow subtasks to be created for a particular task. In other words, perhaps you have to complete 3 operations to move one task to the next stage. This is how you would document that. It's actually all in a project of its own. You can view that differently. You can have forecast on its own. In this case, let's create a couple subtasks. As you can see, it's a subtask of this particular task. We'll say review parts. And we'll create another one, and we'll say finish analysis. Now, these are exactly tied to the original task. So, of course, the plan is to invoice the hours I spend on the original task for the client from that invoice. Well, if I log hours here under my subtask, those two will contribute to the ultimate or final number of hours to be completed. So I've got those many done. If I move on to my other, let's say I'm only going to spend an hour on the reviewing parts. And of course, depending on the access rights you have set, you can have different employees log their time or different teams log time here. So now I got 1 hour, 3 hours, I've got a few hours set up, and I've only got 2 stages here set up for my subtask to keep it simple. We'll mark this one as done. We'll mark the next one as done as well. But just like any project, those are things I can edit and configure for my own company. Now, returning to my sale order, I've got a certain time logged. As you can see, this working time recorded has increased. I can anytime view those subtasks. And if I wanted to forecast, I could create this forecast just like I did for the other project. In this case, let's now return to our sale order. I can see here that Odoo's automatically documented 5 delivered hours versus the ordered quantity of 8. Let's go ahead and create that invoice. We'll do it for invoiceable lines. There are multiple options here, but in this case, to keep it simple, let's create and view that invoice for 5 hours. At $125 is my rate. Included tax comes out to $143.75. Now together right there, I have created the sale order, triggered the task, and then invoiced based off of that task and its subtasks. And it's that simple. We can take a look later on at more complex sale orders, perhaps adding products as well. But right here is going to be a pretty typical flow for the service company. Now, a few things to take a look at once we've looked at all of this and basically gone over configuration. I want to now move on to step 4. Let's take a look at analysis of these different processes and then how we can interact with our customers. So we first know that from my project page, I have my multiple projects. I can jump into each of these, say my guitar tuning, view my different tasks. I can see what's been done, what's been finished, and I can also change views over here. So I'm using the Kanban view, and this might be most useful for view in progress, but if I want to view other information, I can go into the list view. I've got my working time right here, and I can use my filter tool and say what's assigned to me, what's been starred. Only one star does basically assign importance. Today activities, what's assigned to be done, and so on. And so these are going to be some of my standard filters, but in Odoo we can really dig down to any information featured here. Look at this list. We can use multiple filters. We can group by these and determine a very specific set of filtering tools. And once we've determined that this is something perhaps I use all the time, I can then favorite that and use it in the future, perhaps even make it my default. Another tool here is going to be my pivot table. If you're familiar with one of these, I can basically alter different information, look at data on these different tasks, and I can, in Odoo, take a look at certain graph views. I can also download these into a CSV or Excel file. Right now, let's start fresh. Let's take a look at my different tasks and review what stage they're in. That easily I can take a look at what the progress is looking like, how much I can expect to finish. Perhaps I have deadline dates in mind. I want to review those. Let's see if I want to view the starting date, perhaps, of these projects. And then over here, I can take a look at who's been assigned, all of them assigned to me on the 6th of September. So these are going to be some of the tools you can use. Like I said, we can download this right here. We can then view it in a graph. And this, again, a tool that we have now in projects, but we have anywhere else in Odoo as well. Let's take a look back to the Gantt view and planning. So we can take a look at each particular project here, take a look at how much working time it's going to take up. We can also take a look at the pivot table using this and explore other information. Planned hours versus effective hours. Effective being anything below planned hours, and once that goes over, they become non-effective or basically against productivity. So we can see this as we move along, and same thing, different tools to analyze here. Users, how many users are logging these hours, and actually we can take a look at all of this separately in the Odoo Timesheets app. So let's take a look at that in particular, actually, timesheets and my employees, my working hours, like we looked at before. In this case, I've got one employee. Like anywhere else in Odoo, I've got certain information about that employee. In this case, I want to shed light on the working hours. So whatever project I'm assigned to, it'll be planned this way based on my working hours. I've got a standard 40-hour week, and that's what this entails. It's basically determining on a day-to-day basis, when am I working, what hours can I work, and that's how that appears on the calendar or in the Gantt view. I can obviously edit this, I can add weekend hours, and I can have team hours so that I can actually work around the clock if I need to, or have multiple people assign timesheets to a particular task or project. That is our working hours. Now let's take a look at timesheets. It's a separate app of its own. As you saw, I can do a lot of reporting on this from projects. But right here itself, I can see information about my timesheets based on particular tasks. I can filter this by my timesheets. I can group this by users rather than tasks, group it by project. And we can look at a list view. So this is going to be another powerful tool for the manager to review. We can assign these to be validated or to be approved by a manager as well. And these are ultimately separate from what we call attendances, right? A punch in, punch out that we might all be familiar with. That's going to be right here. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's a very simple tool, actually included for free with Odoo, that I can clock in, clock out, and review my hours from. Now, analysis aside, how do my customers, how are they updated on tasks, on the progress of that, and how can they give me any feedback? Well, we did look at the automatic emails that go out per stage. Let's also see how they might review information or send me feedback on the fly. Well, I've got my website app downloaded here. So their tool will be through my website portal. So let's go there. Jump here to my website as it appears to a customer. And this is a brand new website just as I downloaded it, but Odoo automatically includes the portal feature, which appears right here. If I'm logged in as a customer, I can see a lot of information, my orders, my invoices, but importantly in this case, the specific tasks and projects that the company is working on for me. If I jump in here, I can see the particular stages, the tasks, and I can jump in further. I can see who's assigned to it, and of course also keep in mind this has to do with who you've assigned it to, what information you've allowed to the customer to view. Down here, they can even send me a message. Let's keep track. We're looking at sale order 1, guitar tuning. I might say, hey, what is the status? And that's going to appear on the back end in the chatter box. So they can always see the status of the project, receive those automatic email updates, and even write to you right from there. And of course, as a follower, you'll receive that notification. Now, once the project is done, perhaps you want to get feedback on how you did and then post that later onto your website. That is also done right here in projects. If we go to our configurations page, and I believe we scroll down here, we've got ratings on tasks. Click here. And what this is going to do is once I actually move my task into the last stage, typically the done stage, it's going to automatically send a rating email to that client. If I jump back to configuration, we'll see I can set up a template that'll help me determine if I got 5 out of 10 stars, 3 out of 10 stars. I can then post that to my website as a marketing or propaganda tool. So this is going to be the in and out. Now, at this point, I would probably open up to questions. Todd, do you think I missed anything here, or are there any questions we should take a look at?
I think that you answered a lot of great questions. We actually have a handful from the community, so let me just go ahead and ask a couple of those
Sure.
to you. And everyone, feel free to keep asking questions throughout. So I guess we've got a couple from Abdirazak. He asked if it's possible to print reports of profitability within the projects. Could you print about the profit per projects by detail?
Well, that's going to involve definitely more of the sales and inventory apps. Of course, you can take a look at specific hours that you spend on a project. Like we saw, you can have your planned hours, your forecasted hours, and your effective hours. So you might set this up so that anything over your effective hours is unprofitable. On the actual sales and inventory apps, though, you can set specific costing information. So what are your current costs per hour at a station? How much does a particular product cost you per hour or per sale? So if we take a look at this products here, we do have information on the guitar tuning. Even though this is a product that I only sell, I do have my cost here, and I haven't set that up. But if I put the cost there, then I can then do reporting, just like we saw elsewhere. I can do reporting on my sales or my projects for what is profitable, what my margins are. That is something that is basically, like I said, covered by reporting, but goes. A lot of our other webinars will go in depth into that involving these two apps.
Cool. Super helpful. And then the next question is, how can I link my stock movement to specific project? For example, my company is construction, and we have our own warehouses, which are used for building materials to supply projects.
Sure. So that is definitely an important part of this, is going to be tying in physical products to your projects, to your sales. First of all, we would have to download the inventory app. So let's see if I can do that quickly now and elaborate on this. But the sale order that actually triggered my my task in my project is the same one that I can add products to for this task for this client. I can also separately do this through the expenses app. So the expenses app will allow me to expense for a particular project that'll hit particular accounts in accounting. And as you can imagine, it really brings a few different apps together there, all this information trickling into accounting. But once I have those products set up, so we can create a product here, create a physical product, and we can then put that on that sale order. Once I've associated with the particular sale order, the particular client, and the task, I can then create routes in Odoo. And these routes determine where this project is occurring, where these products should go. In particular, if I'm dealing with, say, I'm a construction company, I have a few different projects going on right now in different parts of town, I can set up a particular route right here which says when my products arrive from my vendor, they're pushed into inventory, and from there they're pushed to this particular location. In that case, wherever the project is occurring. So again, setting up with routes, creating a stockable product and adding that to the sale order, and then confirming that just like you would, and then being able to invoice both on the product and on the task. Now, I think, was this question asked by, was that Kelsey?
Oh, that was Abdurrazak, the second one.
Abdurrazak, I do invite you to check out we have a webinar specifically on routes. That's going to be probably your best tool for exploring how these routes are set up and basically setting up automatic stock moves in your inventory.
Perfect. Well, now I guess we can move on to the two questions from Kelsey C. Can you create a template with stages and tasks to use with multiple projects? And then the second question is there a way to see a summary of the tasks due that day?
Yeah, perfect questions. Of course, in a lot of cases, we will be using the same project. Perhaps you want to have the same stages and even the same tasks set up to be completed for a project. Well, that is a very easy fix in Odoo. We would just do a template, Todd. So we'd set up a project here. We might say this is my, or let's say a task, right? So we have a particular project here called, well, let's say. Guitar creation. And what I do is then have a task within guitar creation that I can then duplicate. And I can do this for the task. I can do that for the project. We'll say the first stage is in progress and then done, just to keep this simple. But I can now create a task, and we'll say prep. Prep has certain information about it. I've got working hours. This typically takes 3 hours, or excuse me, 30 minutes. I've got a particular description about it. And it's got a tag. We'll say need assistance. And this is a task that, say, I complete at the start of every day. Perhaps it's just something I run a shop, I run a bakery. I need this to be done every morning. So all I do is click up here and duplicate. And so we'll call this my prep template for this particular project. And at the start of the day, I'll duplicate that. The same information appears, and I can work on this and then mark it done once I've finished. Maybe call it now 1 or give it a particular date. Move that into the done stage. And the same thing goes for project. So I can create a project with all of its stages, all of its configurations, and I can then duplicate that and use maybe have 4 projects off the bat here that are just templates that I duplicate when I need to. Now the second question I think was, let's see, is there a way to see a summary of tasks due that day? Yeah, so like we saw on the list view, or in this view as well, the Kanban view of all my tasks, we're going to use the filter tool for that. So we can view by what's assigned to me, like we saw, activities that are due today, overdue activities, all this information here, and then I believe also deadline dates are going to be pretty typical. So let's see if I can take a look at the deadline and group these actually by deadline. I've got a few here that I actually haven't assigned a deadline for. They appear in undefined. And for these, they appear right here, and I have it set per month, but I can also have this on a daily basis even. I can take a look at what is to be done on a particular day. I can also take a look at any moment. Perhaps I'm involved in multiple projects, and I'm just going to view my own. I can view those here. So again, the filter tool on your list view or your form view is going to be the most important. Using this list view, we've got multiple columns here. Quick introduction to our tool Studio appears right here. It's going to be a powerful customization tool, and we have other webinars that focus on this tool. But basically, if any information about the task that you need does not appear standard on this page, this Tool Studio is going to allow you to actually drag and drop this and customize your column view, your list view, and even your forms, and create automated actions. So it's going to be pretty flexible. And once you've determined exactly the grouping and filters you can use, perhaps to view tasks per day for a particular employee, you can favorite that and have a list of favorites that you run through. And that's just about that. Anything else? I think I see one thing here, Todd, about capabilities of subtasks, which I did briefly touch on. But the short of it is that the subtask is a project like any other. It has its own stages. It can be forecasted, and I can invoice from it like we saw before. So in this case, for guitar tuning and the subtask of guitar tuning, I actually created my own project. I can review these individually, and those tie in, each one, to the guitar tuning task. So if I view the tasks in here, I've got timesheets that I can look at, a customer I can tie it to, and the project that it originally comes from.
Okay, cool. Actually, we do have a quick question from Seiko. He was asking, could you illustrate, using sequences and dependencies?
So that actually does require a little bit of configuration. I had to set it up from scratch. I don't think we have much time, right?
Yeah,
but
we're kind of running.
Basically, to touch on the basics, you set up the sequences for the project and the tasks that come through it, and it's just on the task and project configuration, I believe. And again, it basically determines, can I complete a particular task before task 2 is finished, or also controls the order in which they are actually created for the project. But please, I don't remember who was asking that question, but feel free to reach me personally at my email, ses@odoo.com. Let me jump back over here now that we're done to this. But ses@odoo, I'm happy to answer questions to you by email. We can get on a phone call or even set up a personal demo.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I think, our Q&A session has pretty much run the most of its course. Were there any last final things that you'd like to illustrate or anything, Sebastian?
No, that pretty much sums it up. I guess I'd just like to harp on this great program we have here. I think is very useful. We've got a lot of different apps, and at this point we're trying to cover almost every topic you can in Odoo, which is obviously hard. We have a lot of different apps here, a lot of different use cases for Odoo. We are trying to cover all of them, and we have a lot more online. Please feel free to check those out, or again, emailing me here, and we can take a look at that together.
Absolutely. And, as always, if you have any further additional questions, please reach out to us at webinars@odoo.com, and we'll be sure to make sure that your responses are directed to the correct people and responded. And if you want to see additional webinars, always subscribe and check in every Wednesday. Same time, same place. We'll be producing them in English.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Todd, for hosting, and thank you, everybody, for joining us today.
Absolutely. And, as Sebastian mentioned, you can reach him through his meeting link, which is actually listed in the description, or you can check it earlier, as mentioned, ses@odoo.com. And as always, all of these presentations are done by Odoo employees and through the support of our community. So we want to thank you guys, and click the link, subscribe, follow us, and we can't wait to see you again soon. Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.